This video is sponsored by Amino. The Dragon Prince is out on Netflix and I love it. The team at Wonderstorm have presented an interesting story and world, one that has enticed me back to watch the series several times. The characters are well developed, a world-changing adventure has begun, and plenty of plot hooks have been left dangling for future seasons. One question is raised pretty early on. What happened to Callum and Ezran's father, King Harrow? I'm Welshie, welcome to Theory Pop. And just before we get into the theory, I want to talk a bit about today's sponsors, Amino. Amino is a free app with millions of different communities for people to join, uniting around their passions, fandoms, hobbies and interests. There's a community for pretty much everything, and the Dragon Prince Amino is one of my absolute favourite communities. There's a couple of things I enjoy doing in the community. First, checking out all of the fantastic fan art created by members of the Dragon Prince Amino is always fun. There's some very talented artists out there, and Amino is a brilliant place to showcase your work or to find artists you might otherwise have missed. Second, I like using the public discussions to present and talk about theories around the Dragon Prince. It's refreshing to see other members of the community sharing their thoughts and ideas of what we may see in future storylines and episodes. I'll be hosting a poll over on the Dragon Prince Amino to decide what my next Dragon Prince theory video will be. To participate in the poll, click the link in the description or the pinned YouTube comment to download Amino for free on iOS or Android, or search your app store. Once you're on Amino, search Dragon Prince to join. And now, on to the theory. Beware of spoilers for the Dragon Prince. The Dragon Prince sets the stakes pretty high from the start. The world of Xadia had 6 primal sources of magic, but a human mage created a 7th type of power called dark magic, which consumed the essence inside magical creatures. The elves and dragons, horrified by this, split Xadia in half and banished all humans to the west. A long period of tension and conflict between the human kingdoms in the west and the elves and dragons in Xadia to the east culminated in an attack by humans that resulted in the death of the Dragon King and the destruction of his only egg, escalating the conflict. We learn that King Harrow of Katolis, one of the 5 human kingdoms west of the continent dividing breach, was the one who struck down the Dragon King. At the beginning of the series, after this fateful event, a group of Moonshadow Elf assassins have come to take Harrow's life as justice for the death of King Thunder. Runan, the leader of the assassins, binds his fellow elves in a ritual pact, and they shall only be unbound once their deed is complete and King Harrow and his heir are dead. The ribbons bound to each Moonshadow Elf's wrist are a symbol of this pact. They are magically bound, and the ribbons can only be removed once the mission is completed successfully. Runan reveals he shall announce the success of the mission by firing a magic arrow into the sky, signalling the death of King Harrow. And this is exactly what we see. The ribbon falls from Runan and Rayla's wrists, and Runan fires his arrow into the air. The king has fallen to the assassins. Or has he? Before the Moonshadow Elf assault, King Harrow and his court mage and friend Lord Viren have a heated discussion. Viren and his daughter Claudia devised a plan to save the king's life. Viren had encountered and captured a rare creature known as a soul-fang serpent. This particular specimen is incredibly rare due to its 2 heads. Viren reveals something interesting about the serpent.
The soul-fang has an unusual diet. Its bite drains and consumes the spirit of its prey.
The mage's plan is simple. He can use dark magic, along with the serpent, to transfer Harrow's spirit into another host. However, the host spirit would transfer to Harrow's body, meaning someone must die for the king to survive. Harrow refuses this potentially life-saving solution. He doesn't want someone to die in his place. Viren tries once more to convince the king just before the moon rises, entering the king's chambers with the serpent, but the discussion does not go well. Viren leaves the chamber, the elves attack, and Harrow is slain off screen. Not all is as it seems, however. It is possible that Harrow has survived, at least in some form. Let's look at the possibilities. The coin theory. After killing the king, the Moonshadow Elf assassin Runan is captured and held in Viren's dungeon. Viren tries to get information from the elf, but not getting the answers he wanted, the mage seals Runan inside a coin. This is a terrifying and rather painful experience. This doesn't kill Runan. He is clearly alive inside this coin, aware of what has happened but trapped and powerless to escape his prison. Viren may have done the same thing to King Harrow before the assassin's attack on the castle. Could he have put the king inside a coin and shown this to Runan? After all, when he reveals the coins to Runan, the elf's reaction is utter revulsion. It may be that the coins contained the other Moonshadow Elves, but to betray your own king is also a terrible act. We know the Moonshadow Elves take duty very seriously. Rayla is disgusted by her parents' cowardice after failing to protect the Dragon King, so Runarn's abhorrence of Viren's treatment of Harrow would make sense, even if the Human King was his enemy. There are some problems with this theory, however. For one thing, does the victim's physical body remain when they are placed inside the coin, or is that sealed along with their spirit? We don't see Runarn's body after Viren's spell, although it did look like he was pulling the elf's soul into the coin, rather than his entire being. But if the body is left empty, the Moonshadow Elves would most definitely have noticed Harrow's soulless body when they entered the King's chambers and would have quickly realised something was amiss. There's also the noise from the spell. Viren's casting ritual isn't silent, with the verbal component of the spell audible to Commander Gren, chained at the far end of Viren's dungeon. The guards outside Harrow's chambers would almost certainly have heard the spell being cast, but it's the screaming from the victim that would have been noticed. This is not a quiet spell. Harrow's guards would certainly have heard the King's cries and rushed to his aid. But whether this theory is true or not, Viren's spell was worth a mint. Get it? Like how coins are made at a mint and the spell is worth a lot because Viren's making his own money? No? Okay. The Viren and Harrow Theory. There is the possibility that Viren's original plan of swapping Harrow's spirit into another human body was enacted and he traded places with the King. In the throne room, Harrow directly asks Viren if he would volunteer to trade places. Viren later enters the King's chambers with the Serpent, apparently set on doing exactly that, trading places with Harrow and allowing the Moonshadow Elf assassins to kill Harrow's body while the King's spirit would survive in Viren's body. While this is possible, I think there are major issues with this particular theory. First, we know Harrow despises dark magic. If he is now inhabiting Viren's body, can we really expect him to use dark magic as much as he does for the rest of the season? And to use it in such a way on Callum? This seems highly unlikely. Harrow loves his sons, and I absolutely cannot see him using dark magic on either of them in any way, shape or form. Not to mention this assumes that Harrow knows how to use dark magic in the first place. Being a mage requires study and practice and is not an inherent ability in humans, even dark magic. It's unlikely Harrow would suddenly know all of these powerful dark magic spells just from being in Viren's body. And as for ordering Soren to kill the princes, Harrow would not order the death of his children. The scenes between Ezran, Callum and the King show how much Harrow loves his children. Such a sudden and drastic change of character doesn't fit. I think this theory is unlikely. The Pip Theory. This one is actually a variation on Viren's plan to trade places with Harrow. Viren does, in fact, use the Soulfang Serpent, but not on himself. He swaps Harrow's spirit with that of the King's faithful avian companion, Pip. This left Harrow's body alive, with Pip's spirit inhabiting it, while Harrow's spirit and Pip would be left to witness the events that would unfold in his chambers when the Moonshadow Elves attacked. After Harrow's death, Viren actually does a couple of interesting things. First, we see that he has kept Pip, albeit locked in a cage. In this scene, Viren practically gloats at the bird.
No song for the occasion?
I imagine a human suddenly finding themselves in possession of an avian body probably wouldn't know how to sing. Pip was the only other living creature in the room, besides the mage, the king and the serpent, so would be the only candidate other than Viren for the soul transfer. Second, Viren arranges the funeral procession and ceremonial pyre after the death of the king. This is highly unusual and very suspicious. The priests point out that the tradition in Catullus is for the kingdom to have a period of 7 days of mourning for the passing of their king, before the body would be cremated. Viren likely burned the body to hide evidence of the snakebite and remove any chance of Harrow returning to his body. But there is someone else who will be able to tell that Harrow's spirit is in Pip's body. With the revelation that Ezran can speak to animals, if this theory proves to be true, we may see a father-son reunion that will be somewhat bittersweet in a later season. The Death Theory. The king is dead. As much as we, as fans, don't want to accept it, it is entirely possible that Harrow is truly gone. He didn't trade places with Viren, he's not trapped in a coin, his spirit hasn't possessed Pip. His life has ended. The previous theories all rely on one common element in order to be true. The magic that bound the Moonshadow Elves to their task only requires that the target's body dies. The spirit or soul does not matter. This magical contract is immensely powerful. The The bindings remaining on Runan and Rayla's arms while Ezran still lives will eventually grow tight enough to completely remove a limb. Rayla even tries to remove her ribbon with a Sunforged blade, infused with magic by Sunfire Elves to burn with the heat of the forge that made it. That blade can cut through anything, except for this tiny, thin piece of ribbon. It isn't even marked by the touch of this burning blade, a weapon that slices through steel like a hot knife through butter. It took a dragon to finally remove the binding, and this dragon is hinted at being the most powerful of his kind to have ever lived. Are we then meant to assume that this incredibly powerful magic can be fooled by a simple soul swap? If Harrow's spirit is still alive, whether in a golden coin, the body of a mage, or the form of a bird, do we really believe that the oath is fulfilled by simply killing the body of the target? That feels like a stretch. While making the pledge, Runan states, "We bind our lives to justice." The death of the body, while the spirit survives in another vessel, is not justice. The Moonshadow Elves do not take lives lightly, and this oath is a symbol of that commitment. I think the magic would have recognised if Harrow's spirit lived on in another form, and the bindings would have remained intact. Of these 4 theories, I think the final 2 were the most likely, but now that the Dragon Prince has been renewed for a second season, hopefully we will find out when the show returns in 2019. Hi everyone, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed these theories on Harrow's fate in the Dragon Prince. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. If you'd like to watch another video, click the box over on the left, or click my face up above to subscribe, and I'll see you next time.